I don't know. Wait 10 seconds, I guess.
We do.
Hello, Ammar. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
You look great at 4 in the
I
morning.
mean, hey, like they say, it doesn't just happen. You got to work on it. This
Wow.
is
It looks like you have worked on it. And if anyone is looking for Ammar's skincare regime, please find it in the description on another video. Not this one, because I don't care.
Sounds like another good way to. Wow, you don't care for a change. Oh, shit. No, Shez, the line is who cares? And actually, all these people care. You watch out for the tired GP, makeup and look good playlist coming
Oh
soon.
wow, yeah.
Just
I
need some
can't
song.
wait. I think I should. I hope I can get some tips off it as well. I need it.
No,
Um,
you can't do it,
you
Shez.
gonna do
You
it?
can't.
You
Don't
gonna
worry
do
about it. You're way too good for this. Come on, you don't need to stoop down to this level. You just don't.
it? Right, Amara. So we're going to wade into some murky,
Mm.
controversial, and probably
Oof.
some slightly divisive waters today, because Felipe Massa has taken his case that the Singapore Grand Prix from 2008 should be thrown out, and that he should be crowned the 2008 Formula One world title champion, and be paid 64 million pounds
Oh.
pounds,
Mm.
Amar, in lost earnings. Before we get into anything else, can I just say I find it refreshing that Felipe Massa, a Brazilian driver who was driving for an Italian team, has decided to take his case to, wait for it, the British Court of Justice. The British Court of Justice. And it's going to be heard by a judge. A British judge. Can you think of any other case ever in the history of Formula One where British bias can be so keenly applied, Ammar? Are you not anticipating great British bias here?
I am, I can't say anything to you anymore. Like it's gotten to a point where those of you that oppose British bias have just sort of hijacked the narrative, right? Like you don't understand what
It's
we're
the
trying to
new
say.
woke, my friend.
Um, I mean, Felipe has no choice, does he, Shez? What other court was he going to go to?
Italy?
This is not,
I don't know.
yeah, but it doesn't work that way,
France?
no? I mean,
France? The FIA are based in France? Why can't you go there?
that's a good point. Maybe it's more expensive there. I don't know.
America,
I have no.
FOM, are owned by Liberty Media currently. So
We are
why
really
why couldn't
busy
they?
litigating a lot of things right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
I know
but
the case
you guys
is,
definitely get the results you want. And
wow.
Felipe wouldn't
Okay.
even have to fly very far. It's just up the road, isn't it?
Yeah, and so Shez, the short version is I don't know why he's doing that. I suppose all of these cases are fought in or litigated, I should say, in the British judicial system.
Right.
I just find it funny that the timing of all of this is, I mean, the Brazilian Grand Prix is next weekend, right? So does he show up? What is he? Is he going to be allowed? Is he going to be given a paddock pass or no? Is he going to have to wait outside?
I mean, I don't think he's going to be getting any invites to McLaren or Ferrari anytime soon, is he? But yeah, I mean, this case has been
Why
brought
would he
against.
not get an invite to Ferrari though?
Well, did you not hear that he said that he got reprimanded in 2009 for saying that Fernando Alonso knew about it? Unbelievable! I love this stuff.
Wow, it's so that was, yeah. We'll get into it, but that was quite fascinating. Fernando's back in it, and
Yeah,
in the middle of all of
exactly.
this.
Well, I mean, he was in the middle of all of this, wasn't he? And we're going to get to that in a second. But what I love about what's happening at the moment is that. Ooh, what's that? Oh, it's me. Um, that's weird. What's super interesting about this is that we've now had two court cases back to back almost. I think with the same KC as well. And we are uncovering a whole heap of fun stuff about Formula One from the past and not that distant past. It's quite fun. What do you think?
It is quite fun if you're into this, right? I mean, I would say a good 90% of fans that have just joined us over the last 5 years would know nothing about this. They just absolutely will have no clue about it. And but what is fascinating about this is you have Lewis Hamilton at the center of it. So this is probably why it's gaining the kind of attention and eyeballs and clicks, or so to speak, and that too on an off weekend, right? Because we don't have any racing going on this weekend.
Yeah.
So this is what we have to talk about. Crashgate, right? As the scandal was in 2008, right? Is all coming to a fore. So this is quite amazing. And just the problem is, again, there are many levels to this, right? Whether you are arguing the Felipe side of it or the I can't believe there's an argument for the FI and FO1, FOM rather, in any situation. But I suppose there is an argument there too, right? But it's sort of like talking about different things, right? And saying, well, the end result should be different based on this and that. But it's really not that. So it's fascinating. It
Yeah,
really is.
I mean, I especially find it interesting that you say that Lewis is in the middle of it, because Felipe Massa himself said that Lewis Hamilton should support his bid because it's just fair and right. You remember that? It was last year.
Yes, I
Very
do.
interesting.
Well, but then by extension, then you can start to have an investigation into 2021 too, right? So there's that, right?
No one would ever say that. What are you talking
No?
about? 2021
Okay,
is done
wow.
and dusted. It's as if it never
sure?
happened.
Shez, you say that, but this past week, after the Mexican Grand Prix, I have heard so many people, as I said on Monday, big mad, as if this is. I have to just tell me if I'm wrong. This is after AD 21 the most controversial thing involving Lewis Hamilton, and I'm not blaming him for it. I'm just saying this. I don't think I've heard anyone be as well. There was a sabotage gate in between, maybe, but
Sabotage gate. What was that?
with Mercedes, you guys forget that very quickly, huh? Oh, you moved on from that.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. But yes, I mean, the thing is, after Mexico,
Yes.
I think anybody that was saying anything about Max just didn't understand what was going on there, and were just trying to create their own narratives, including Martin Brundle, I thought. But yeah.
That's quite amazing. He dropped one of those on the off week. That is so look at me of Martin Brundle. He's like, look, I wasn't here. He wasn't commentating last week.
He wasn't.
Evidently.
No,
That's what I take it. Okay, they're like, oh yeah, well I was missing out on this. Let me come in here, drop this, and kind of move on.
One,
like,
yeah.
He should have got a penalty. He should have got a penalty.
I think that's what the entire commentary would have been like if Martin Brundle had been on. It would have just been Max needs to give that back. Max needs a penalty. What? Lewis got a penalty, and it would have been that on repeat for the whole race. It was
as you say, Lewis Hamilton, but I've had plenty of debates and arguments, mostly civil at this point, with people saying justice for Lewis. I'm like, man, he didn't lose anything. He told us on Saturday he had nothing to lose, and you guys are all behaving as if he lost an 8 championship. Like, come on, like so
yeah. I mean, I think the justice for Lewis hashtag is more about what's happening in London this week, isn't it? I think it is anyway, but I mean, I don't know.
Oh, okay, all right.
I think it is. Should we get into it a little bit? So look,
let's go.
2008 was 13 years ago, and even for me, in my dotage, is a long time ago, and yet I remember it. I remember that weekend. I remember being really excited about the Singapore Grand Prix 2008. It was the first night race. Now they seem to be sprouting out everywhere, especially on street tracks. But back then it was fresh. It was exciting. It was in Singapore. Awesome. Let's go. What were your thoughts that weekend? How did you ingest that weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I clearly enjoyed. I mean, that was an enjoyable race, I think, because it had controversy in there, even as things. And as you know, with these full-on safety cars, right? And if, by the way, if you guys haven't seen the race, there's probably a couple of videos out there about it. So it's worth kind of looking at the highlights again because it has been that long, right? But Singapore has always served up amazing races, and this was until we knew that it was what Renault were doing. It was quite an amazing race. It was also a close championship that year, so there was that added to it. So yeah, I mean it was a fun race, Jess. But I mean, I think back to all of the races that season, and again, Brazil it tops it for me in many ways, right? Because that was with the race where everything went down to the wire. But this was a good race. I mean, in general, right? Until you found out what you found out.
Well, yeah, but this is it, right? So, confession time. I was a fairly big Fernando Alonso fan back in 2008.
No.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was a big fan of Fernando Alonso, especially. I had an underlying feeling that he'd been hard done by at McLaren in 2007.
Wow.
And here he was slumming it at Renault in 2008. And actually,
Wow, I mean-
I was up for a win. I wanted him to win some stuff that year, and he did in the end, didn't he? He won Japan a couple of races later anyway on merit, but. At this race, there was a feeling that actually the Renault was going to work really, really well. He was fastest in FP3. He was looking like he was going to be on it, and then in Q2, he parks it. You remember before they did the change, they had that corner that went underneath the grandstand. He parks it there with a fuel feed problem. Jumps out and he's like angry, jumping up and down. He's like throwing his helmet everywhere. He looked really, really upset. And actually, I was a little bit too, because I thought actually he could qualify quite high in this race. And given the nature of the track, it's not a power sensitive track particularly. It certainly wasn't back then. Maybe Fernando was on for a win. And I was pretty excited about that. But then the actual race happened, and I'm gonna do a quick
Summary,
breakdown,
recap.
of what happened. So, as I say, Alonso was fastest in FP3. We were all anticipating a good qualifying result for him. He then went out in Q2, qualified 15th, and it was all doom and gloom. But then we get into the race proper, and Alonso comes in for a super early pit stop, lap 12 for super soft tyres, ahead of everybody else, right? He's taking that stop super, super early. And then fortuitously, 2 laps later, his teammate, Nelson Piquet Jr., pirouettes into the turn 17 wall and takes himself out of the race. And this is a street track, so there's no clearing the car out under double waved yellows. No, there's a full safety car, and everybody comes in for a cheap pit stop. But cycling his way forward on this one-stop race is Fernando El Plan Alonso, who is suddenly ahead of everybody other than Giancarlo Fisichella, who inexplicably decides not to come in for a pit stop. But everybody else does come in. Cue mayhem. And if you haven't seen this already, this is on
Fuel hose.
on an absolute litany of YouTube videos and replays. You can find it everywhere. But Felipe Massa comes into the Ferrari pit, is released. I don't think it's really of any fault of his, but he is released with his fuel hose attached. For those of you who don't know what a fuel hose is, back in 2008, we had refueling. So pit stops weren't 1 to 2 seconds long. They were up to sort of 6 or 7 seconds long, because you had a fuel hose attached to refuel the car. Now Ferrari, as ever with Ferrari, decided that they were going to release Felipe baby with his fuel hose attached, and he didn't seem to realize until he got to the end of the pit lane, and there were a bunch of Ferrari mechanics running after him to try and detach this fuel hose. He comes out of the pits unsurprisingly at the back of the pack. But even worse for Ferrari, he then gets a 10-second drive-through penalty. No, he doesn't get a 10-second drive-through penalty. He just gets a drive-through penalty, which puts him even further at the back. And just to compound things even more, as he's trying to not really get himself back through the pack, he pirouettes again and slams into the barriers just underneath the tunnel, undamaging his car, being able to carry on. But Felipe wasn't really in the race at that point. He scored 0 points. His main championship rival that weekend was none other than Lewis Hamilton, who came home third after the aforementioned Fernando Alonso and Nico Rosberg, who had a really great race actually. Maybe could have won it if he hadn't crossed the white line exiting the pit lane after his pit stop. But anyway, there we are. Lewis Hamilton comes home third, earning himself a massive 6 points.
6 points, yeah.
So that's the race, right?
By
What
the way,
happened?
the point system was different back in that time.
Thank you.
It
Yes,
wasn't, yeah. So,
yes, it was. Fernando Alonso only accrued a meager 10 points for winning the race back then.
yeah.
Then it was all forgotten about. Not quite forgotten about because there were little rumours. But Lewis Hamilton, in a fairly grandstanding final race, won the championship in Brazil. Brilliant. And he was named Formula One world champion at the FIA prize giving gala at the end of the year. But then in 2009, the whole thing blew up again, and Crashgate, as it's now known, became public, and it was found out that Nelson Piquet Jr. wasn't just fortuitous, he had deliberately crashed his car on lap 14 of the Singapore Grand Prix to allow his teammate Fernando Alonso to cycle to the front during the safety car pit stop phase. And as a result of that, Flavio Briatore and Pat Simmons were given lifetime bans. And it's found out now through this court case that Felipe Massa did lobby Ferrari and their lawyers to find out if anything could be done about that race. And they were told no, because the prize giving gala has already happened. The FIA and FOM cannot change the result of any given race or a championship standing after the championship is done and the prize giving gala is done. That's the end of it, right? Well, no, not quite. In 2023, Bernie Ecclestone gives a interview to, I think, his own publication, F1 Insider or F1 Business Insider. Great publication. Go find it if you can. They also decided to slur Susie Wolf in that publication, if I'm not mistaken, not very long ago. But in 2023, Bernie Ecclestone said, look, I knew about it. Max Mosley, then FIA president, knew about Crashgate before the end of the season, but we didn't do anything about it. And what we would have done would have been to cancel the result of that race. And that is what Felipe is trying to argue, that race, if it had been investigated as it should have been, when it was known that the crash was deliberate, should have been annulled in season, and he should have therefore been crowned Formula One world champion. To that you say what, Ammar?
I think the instinctive reaction, if you take all the drivers out, is yes, that's how it should be. I mean, it should have been that, because I mean, you just illustrated very quickly why what happened, right? And I think one of the things to note is that in 2008, if I'm correct, Shez, when the safety car was deployed, the pit lane was closed immediately, right? So there was a way. I mean, that's not the case anymore, right? We can have safety cars today and cars can pit, but back in 2008, that was not the case. Drivers had to wait for the lane to reopen, right? And in order for that to happen. So that was, if something like that would have happened today, I think that you could have sort of mitigated that. Now, would Massa have won in that case, even if Ferrari would have done everything right? That still would be TBD. But so I think there's some merit to his case, and his point is quite simple, Shez. If you had done what you were supposed to do back then we would have had a different outcome, right? So I can see why he would have the case for that. Now, what I don't know, Shez, is that even if they annulled the race, right? Is that correct? Does that actually mean, other than Fernando losing the victory, what else do you sort of go down the line and take points away from everybody, right? So that's what you're supposed to do. If you do that, then yeah, I mean, that's pretty clear cut, no? It's 6 fewer points for Lewis Hamilton, and then that changes everything, right? Among other things, right? So, but I was also I don't know if it has down the line implications for who finished well, Lewis would have finished P2 in the standings, but then P3, P4, etc., and everything that it has to do with it. So, Felipe does have a case just based on that. I've seen a lot of people comment about how he binned it in other races and all that. It's nothing to do with that. This is all about F1 and F1 management, not sort of taking care of business.
Yeah, Is there not an argument though that these things don't happen in isolation, and drivers do change their approach to how they attack a season
Yeah.
based on individual results? So if Felipe had, as he contends, won that race, and Lewis had finished
I know about the one.
second or third, that the subsequent races wouldn't necessarily have played out the way that they did. Is there not an argument to say that you can't just annul one race in isolation and change the entire championship result based on that?
Says I don't agree with that position, right? I think the case is quite simple. If that race has essentially been annulled, then it's kind of like that race didn't happen. Period. End of story. That's it. Nothing that happened in that race matters. It doesn't matter if you finish P1 or P17 or 18. I think Felipe finished P13. It doesn't matter. It's like that race didn't happen. So you basically take, the proverbial, whiteboard duster and just sort of, take that off the map, or delete it on whatever Excel sheet you kind of put it on. That's all it is. And then, and then you sort of tally up whatever the total points are, and then you move on. That's probably what should have happened, given that they found out about this. Shaz, at the time, they found out about this in 2019, because that's when PK was dropped, right? And so
2009, I think. He was dropped in 2009.
sorry, 2009. Sorry, yeah, my decades are. So I mean, the season concluded at the end of 2008, right? Well, right about now it would have concluded, right? So, they found out in 2009. So that's let's say even the investigation took an additional year. So you're still looking at a 2-year, 3-year window. So it's not. I mean, we're still talking about Abu Dhabi 2021, right? So there's probably a good 3 to 5 year window within which these changes could be made. The problem is, this has nothing to do with doing what's right or doing what you can to make it more just, if that's the right word. The problem is, once you start going down this path, the sport does not remain a sport any longer, because then you're having results being adjudicated in a courtroom or at another time. It has so many implications financially, but it's just not a good thing for a sport to kind of have this, right? And this is kind of why you got to be done with it. But so this is also the problem now with Massa relitigating this at this point, which I think it's all about money now. But you can't just go about changing.
I don't think it is just
the whole
about
thing.
money. And the problem
Is it?
with this is that, look, we're talking about the implications of it, and the implications are massive. It would be the first time
Massive,
in the
yes.
championship's history that they would change the result of a championship, strip a driver of their championship, right? And let's be honest, through no fault of his own. It's not as if Lewis did anything to bring this
Correct.
on, right? So strip him of it and give it to somebody else. And again, you number one, I don't think you can absolutely guarantee that everything that happens subsequently to that race happens exactly how it does, if that race doesn't end the way it does at the time. That's the difficulty of doing it, in terms of just taking it off an Excel spreadsheet, as you say, and pretending it never happened. That's the first thing. The second thing is that this entire case, and I get it, right? This is about whether or not the race should be annulled, and it's not about Felipe's performance or Ferrari's performance in that race or in any other race. This is predicated on an interview that Bernie Ecclestone gave in 2023. Right, they're taking a couple of lines that he said in that interview, an interview which he himself has said was mistranslated. Now, if you're going to use that as the basis of your argument, surely you have to get Bernie Ecclestone as one of your witnesses.
Well, I mean,
and if he comes down, is he gonna testify that, yes, I did know about it in 2008 before the prize giving gala?
Shez, I think this is fascinating. I really don't believe it's about the championship anymore, right? I don't
Really?
think so.
Okay, what do you
Because
think it's
again,
about then?
no, I don't. Because to your point, what you said is exactly true, which is you cannot strip the other driver of a championship when he or his team did nothing wrong, right? This would not be like 2007 with what was going on with McLaren, and all of that, right? This wouldn't be that, right? Also, although Massa lost the championship, I think his visual, the podium images and the video of him celebrating, right, this emotionally in Brazil, probably stick out just as much as Lewis Hamilton's championship winning moment. I mean, they kind of do coexist and co-share that moment. Of course, if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, you're going to only look at that. But I think most Formula One fans would appreciate both sides of it. Lewis winning and Massa losing, although through no fault of his own too, you could argue, right? So I think that when you go back and sort of erase that, you're also losing a lot of reputational capital, which also means a lot to drivers, right? I mean, it's not just about
Do you
getting the championship.
do you mean to the FIA and the FOM, or do you mean to Lewis
No,
himself?
I mean this specifically for Massa. Like he could become a champion, but nobody would actually think of him that way, right? Because A, it's been so far out, and B, yes, you're taking it away from Lewis, who has nothing wrong to do it. I mean, this would kind of be the same thing if 2021 were relitigated too, right? Max did nothing wrong. He was equally deserving. So I'm just no. I'm just giving that as an example. I think the reason this is fascinating, Shez, to your point, is what Bernie's been saying, which is, well, first of all, he just needs to shut up. Like it's just really just it's just that he's saying stuff now because this part he has said a lot of things. He said a lot of things. No, Bernie
yeah.
Bernie Ecclestone, right? And yes, he's meant a lot to the sport, but we also know that there's some real dark stories, and it's you can look this up. There's no need to sort of go through all of this right now. You can see that he's being bold in sort of saying many things, one of which is this. And I can also understand why Felipe would feel aggrieved that the system was against him and Bernie was at the helm of it. So I think this is a little bit of that, right? And I don't know how, again, the judicial system in the UK works, but none of these things, when they get litigated like this in the court of public opinion, when you start to put out these cases from years ago, you start revealing more and more things.
I know, that's why it's so good. That's why it's so good.
So this is why Massa has a case. This is why Massa has a gotcha case, right? Where he's like, look, see, these were the things you guys were telling me back then. And look, the guy who was leading F1 at the time just told you that he kind of knew about this and he didn't really want to do anything about it.
He said I was, whatever. He said I was mistranslated. And look, let's not forget, right? Let's not forget. This comes back to your point about what kind of championship Felipe Massa receives if he gets what he wants. No one's ever going to actually think, oh yeah, Felipe was the 2008 world champion. I don't think anyone in their right mind is actually going to think that's what happened. But secondly, he is willfully allowing his image to be dragged through the mud. Now I'm with you. I remember the end of that Brazilian Grand Prix in 2008. I was in tears for Felipe. Exactly. Don't get me wrong. Like I wanted Lewis to win. At that point, I was on the edge of my seat, willing him to get past Sebastian Vettel. 1 second, Matthew Brown. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you, sir. For all those who are worried, let me put you at ease. The court will eat Massa alive with his own piece of evidence. With this one piece of evidence, the fact that he ripped his own fuel hose off as he drove out of the pit. Matthew, I agree with you, but I think this is part of his image getting dragged through the mud. But the problem is that his case is not predicated on that at all. What he is saying is that if he gets what he wants, that race is erased, and him dragging his fuel hose across the pit lane will have never happened. It will be as if it never happened at all. But the problem is it did happen, and that's what's worrying about this. Let me just go back to what I was saying. I was on the edge of my seat wanting Lewis to win, but when Felipe was up on that podium and he came out to the crowd, he was beating his chest like, I did everything I could. Mm-hmm. And then he was in the press conference afterwards. Like, honestly, it was heartbreaking to hear him say, look, I know how to win, but I know how to lose. Felipe, baby, after all of that, if you go and bring this case, you lose all of that goodwill. You certainly lose it from me. Yeah. And I think there's a whole host of fans that are going to think the same thing. And all that happens is what has happened in this court case so far, that the FIA and FOM have come all guns blazing going, mate, basically you're coming with this tiny little bit of evidence, but you never deserved that title. You drove badly and you lost because the other guy was much better. Look at this reel of you spinning 5 times in
quite
Silverstone.
funny, right?
Look at you spinning off on your own in Malaysia with traction freaking control. Actually, no, that's right. He didn't have traction control. It was the first season. No, it was the first season that they cut traction control.
Correct.
And everybody
was a transition phase.
Yeah, everybody was immediately like, Felipe can't drive without traction control. And
Shez.
But that's the image that is going to be brought to bear in front of everybody, with the governing body turning around and actively saying you were rubbish that year. That's why you lost the title. And if you win, wait for it. If you win the case and you get crowned champion, that's all anyone's going to think of. Go on. Gagging at the bit as you are.
I was. I find this really funny, right? I find this funny that the Formula One management and the FIA have gone to the court saying, Massa, you're an idiot because you would have never deserved to win this, because look at the other guy. He is amazing. And you know how we know he's amazing? He's already won 7 championships at this point. That's how we know he's amazing, right? And again, if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, this has to be mind-boggling. All of a sudden, the establishment is supporting Lewis? Are you kidding me? What's going on here? This is got to be such a mind bleep, right? And in some ways, so this is, again, why I find this fascinating. It's not about the outcome of this particular litigation. It is just, you can see this evidenced in the defense that FIA and Formula One are putting up, right? Which is like, nah, none of this matters, as you just said, because you stunk the rest of the season or whatever. You had issues along the way, right? But the reality is they cannot argue the merit of what happens, right? And so if you're trying to be fair, right? If you are strictly being, and I don't know again how the judicial system will work there, Shez, but if you're just trying to be fair, you would not put names of the drivers in there. You would just look at this purely on the case on its merits. And if F1 have decided to annul that race,
done that to himself,
then that
though,
should have.
He's done it to himself. Like,
exactly.
He's turned up and been like, it's my title. Yes. Give it back to me.
Yes, correct.
So
Chess, that's how you're going to come at this.
It's his.
But he would have he would actually have a case that's based on objective merit too, right? And again, I think the argument here has to be pretty simple. That race does not count. It's not about anything else that happens, right? But of course, the other side's going to argue that, well, no, the season was about everything else. It's not about one race, right? So again, I'm sure lawyers are litigating this, and there's so many angles to it. But I don't think F1 and the FIA want this to be. They probably want this to be settled, because the last thing you want to do is open up these cases. Then it kind of opens you up to doing more of these for other seasons, right? I think 2021 comes back in play, right? You don't want that to happen.
Exactly.
And then who knows what's revealed, right? Because the reality is, look, as much as we enjoy these sports, there is a dark side to it. There are hidden secrets all over the place that just do not want to get. That's probably why Ferrari are not happy with Felipe doing this. That's probably why McLaren are not happy with Felipe doing this. It's not about the championship anymore. Says, how many times does this happen? I mean, was it George Russell who stood on the podium and celebrated at Spa, right, 2 years ago? When I think about who won at Spa 2 years ago, I think of Russell first, although he did get disqualified after the race. But the moment is over, right? It's over. It's done and dusted.
But it was before the FIA prize giving gala, though. So
no, of course no. I do, but I mean, who watches the FIA prize giving gala?
Well, enough people that you can't change a result afterwards. It's got nothing to do with who watches it. Right?
Exactly right.
But yeah, I do think that a plausible outcome to all of this is that, yes, the race itself is annulled, but they keep the points, and the only thing that happens is that the results are taken away, in terms of, Fernando Alonso gets a win taken off his tally, so he goes down to a whopping 31 races rather than 32, which I think, next year he's not going to mind anyway, because he's going to be sweeping everybody before him in that Aston Martin, so it's not going to make any difference to him.
There we go again. Here with your fanboy Alonso.
But I do think that it's as per the FIA's own statutes, they can't change the result post post the prize giving gala, right? The only time I can think of somebody actually having their entire results stripped was Michael Schumacher after the '97 Jerez Grand Prix, right, where he knocked his rival, didn't he? Jacques Villeneuve that year, and the FIA stripped him of second place in the championship, but they didn't take his wins away, which was odd. But that again fit with their own statutes. They did it within the appropriate time, and therefore they were able to do it. This is so far outside of that, and even if Felipe can successfully argue that Bernie and Max knew about it before the FIA prize giving gala, I don't think that you can change the result based on they might have known.
So Shez, let me ask you this: when can you change the result? Because that's the argument here. Is
in season.
But
that's
you
the only
cannot
time
do this.
You can't do it afterwards.
As a driver. Well, but Shez, you can't do this. I mean, okay, I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a second here. You cannot, if you're the aggrieved team and or driver, you cannot. I mean, you have to focus on the season while you're also litigating this, right? It's not possible to do that.
But if you feel that strongly about it, then that's what you have to do. Yeah, but Ammar, if you feel about it that strongly, then that's what you need to do. Sorry.
But just how can you feel about it that strongly when you haven't even had the chance to gather all the evidence? I mean, you may not. I mean, remember, Singapore was
what do you want me to do? Those are the rules.
There were 3 races after that too, so I could argue
this is basically the same as my dog ate my homework. I'm sorry, but I had so much stuff to do that I couldn't get my homework done.
Not.
But these are multi-million-dollar Formula One teams. If they need to litigate a case in the middle of a season because they have grounds to believe that something was done deliberately, then they can do it. I mean,
you may not have.
Ferrari litigated Spygate in the middle of a season, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean,
but that's different. Why is that different?
Up to it. But Shez, you and I have both read a lot about this and also heard a whole podcast about this. The problem is they had evidence of this building up even before the season started. So it's not.
But they could have just said, we've got a championship to win, and we're right in the thick of it. So let's leave it till after the championship is done.
If you do that, if that's what you're going to do, then every time your driver loses a race, you're going to have to be suspicious about something happening. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You're going to have to lodge a complaint every time Massa was not first.
Yes,
Ferrari would have to be at the doorstep there.
Yeah, but Ammar, this wasn't just Ferrari. Everybody in the pit lane was saying this has been manipulated, and there were rumors immediately. I remember that happening, like the next race. So
but Shez,
I'm sorry, if they can litigate for somebody stealing their intellectual property for an entire season while they're fighting for a world championship, which I think is a bigger, court case.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Then they can lobby. They don't have to do the investigation themselves. It's for them to lobby the FIA to do the investigation. The FIA aren't fighting for a world championship, and it's part of their remit to investigate these things. So if there's sufficient evidence, then go for it.
What's also proving to be true, whether you change the result or not.
We had a championship to fight for, therefore we didn't have time to litigate for our driver. I'm sorry. That's a ridiculous argument.
It's difficult to walk and chew gum for everyone. I mean, you can't just be inclusive.
But not for Ferrari. They did it the season before.
What Massa is also saying is that FIA and F1 weren't capable of doing a proper investigation, or in this case didn't want to do one.
But they did one, didn't they? They did one because they managed to come out in favor of.
They kind of had to do it. I mean, and they were forced to do it. That's all. And it doesn't sound like they did a very good job at it too either. So there's that, right? Remember, I mean, none of these things actually. The first point at which you could have actually, from a legal standpoint, acted on something substantial is when Nelson Piquet got dropped. And I would argue.
But that's not true, though.
Probably should have.
But that's not true, because Nelson Senior was shouting at Max Mosley at the Brazilian Grand Prix, saying, Briatore told my son to crash his car. So they had the information there and then. And I'm sure Ferrari could have been like, well, maybe you could do a bit of investigation. Why didn't
Yeah,
they?
I mean, they could have been
No,
doing
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
again, I don't buy your argument that would have been the thing for them to focus on at that moment too. Although this is a sticky issue, right?
Not sticky.
And I suspect this is probably, again, the problem with relitigating this is then you can kind of go at all of these safety car races and see where it crashed. I mean, I hate to bring up AD21, not because this is about Max or Lewis, but Latifi did crash. Like, we just sort of forget that, right? And he crashed on his own too, so that it does raise questions at this point. It's like, if you're into,
How are Nutella and Red Bull connected? Tell me. I don't know.
how are Nutella and Red Bull
Yeah,
connected?
isn't
I don't know why
Latifi
you
like a
brought up
big
Nutella.
Nutella ambassador? He loves Nutella.
I have no idea. I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not. Who knows, man? Look, again, Christian Horner's just been dropped. He might be riding a tell-all, right? Again. So yeah, I do think that for the integrity of the sport, I hate to use integrity with this line, given that we know that there's clearly something that doesn't align, right? They cannot go back and change these results. So I'm pretty sure that Felipe is smart enough to know
I don't think
that
he
that's
is.
not the case.
I
This is
genuinely
about
don't think
something
he is
else.
because he's gone
Which
this
says
far.
he's not going to destroy his reputation.
I think he
'cause-
has. I think he
'cause
has
he's
already,
just
and he's
gonna,
gonna. Omar, if he lets this case carry on, he's gonna allow his reputation to be
I think he
massively
wants a
slandered.
settlement with the FIA. I think that's
Yeah,
coming through. I wouldn't be
yeah, but
surprised
Omar,
if he sees
the
something.
the out of court settlements have been and gone. Those chances have happened, right? But he has chosen to keep going, which suggests to me that he thinks that he could actually get this championship back. Maybe he can, but I think it would be a huge mistake. And ultimately, this is still the FIA and FOM's competition. It's their history, their results. So they can kind of do what they want at the end of all of this. The court can't force them necessarily, I don't think they can, to change the result of a championship. But
they will give some sort of compensation, which is where part of the money comes in, Shez. I mean, this is what that is. I keep telling you that, yes, it's not about restoring Massa as a championship winner from 2008 as he wants it, right? And this is not about that. It really isn't. It's about everything else. Now, I think the other maybe byproduct of this, and I don't know that Felipe is thinking about it this way, is that maybe there can be a better process to challenge these things. Maybe there can be some more defined rules and proper steps on what could be taken, or what maybe in the future a championship can be taken away, because it's not like there are no circumstances in which that can happen too. So this could potentially be that, but I don't know that that's what he's thinking about. I really just think he wants to pick a fight with the FIA and F1, and that's okay. I'm down for that, but I don't think any results should be changed.
Yeah, I mean, I think
done and dusted.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think poor old Felipe has been given some bad advice from people that are saying that this can definitely happen. But you know what? We may eat our words in the next few weeks and find out that actually this does go to trial and a judge does rule that Felipe Massa should have.
That'd be quite amazing. I'm actually kind of rooting for that.
But
I really want to see. But Jess, there is some beauty in Felipe making a mess of this, right? Again, I'm not suggesting that Lewis should lose his championship, nor am I suggesting that Max should lose his in 21. But there is some beauty. I mean, I'm just saying that because I know people are commenting about 21 again. I am here for the anarchy and the mess. Who isn't? I've heard all about it this week, Shez, because God forbid somebody cut a corner in turn one and went on to be second in the race. So that's all I've been hearing about this week. It's okay. But I love the idea of Felipe making this. Yeah, so see, 2008, it was manipulated, man. Like, I mean, honestly, I mean that is the best argument. If I'm Felipe and I get a chance to testify in public, and that's the line I would have. It's all been manipulated, man. That's what I would say. But just make a mess of it. Let's see what happens. Like, we're down for that because I love people picking a fight with F1 and FIA. I just love that. I really do. I don't know. Do you?
Yeah, but I wish it wasn't Felipe. I kind of liked him, you know.
I like Felipe too. I really.
But I don't.
He is
but right now I don't.
Reputation.
Yeah, he's being an idiot, and it's just a bit silly. There is one other order of business.
Yes, let's do.
Right, which is that you have to cede or concede.
Yes, I do. I will. I have prepared a written statement here by my lawyers.
Thank you. I'm going to give you the full screen for this
today
as well.
Today is Friday the 31st, although Halloween 31st. So Friday the 31st, 2025, I, Ammar, cede to Shez that Lewis Hamilton was ahead of Charles Leclerc at turn one in Mexico, although just by a whisker. in parentheses, but he was, and that Leclerc should have given the position back to him. And to all my Lewis Hamilton newly made Ferrari fans that have joined us in the last 6 months, I sincerely and truly apologize for the pain, the anguish, the mental health concerns that you've had around this particular thing happening. I've heard from hundreds of thousands of you. Really, it has felt sometimes at like millions of you that you feel like this has been unjust to levels that are of magnanimous proportions. And I really do worry about your sanity and your health, but mostly mine. But and so in that sense, Shez, and to put an end to all of the various images of turn one and drawing apex lines and who was here first and who was here
The
second
apex
and
is
who
a
was
dot,
here.
Ammar. There's no line.
Yes,
It's a
the
dot.
apex dot. Okay, it was a dot, and and still shot Formula One races. I'm done with that. So please, I cede the floor and the decision to you, Shez. You guys win. Uh, Hamilton should have gotten that position back. I'm sorry that he didn't. I'm happy for you guys to apply a 10-second penalty to Leclerc. I hope we can agree on that. Some of you will say he should just be disqualified. Please do me a favor. Don't call him names and cheater and all of these other things that are going on. Like, really, it's not that big of a deal, right? Really, I mean, it's not like Ferrari's fighting for anything at all. So yeah. But Chaz, I owe you an apology. I cede this race to you, this argument to you. You are the winner, sir. Well deserved.
Ammar, I graciously accept. And on that note, we're going to have to call it a day. As usual, please like, please subscribe, please leave us a comment. We'll read every single one. We'll reply to as many as we possibly can. You guys have been awesome. We will see you guys in the next one.
Fix it, Fred.
Stop it.
He's got to fix it for next year, please. All of it. He's going to have to fix more stuff once he fixes this.